21. When all is nothing but the rising up of many water drops, then the danger is of what happens above the surface.
The heights of a page are excited, and there is a storm within its clarity of a clearing that allows for no currents of theory to hang together.
When this is always apparent, and when other times are clear as well, then they will not be read as the products of any synthesis of.
There will be no tempo that parallels others who, upon some blurry boundary, have no position which might have been.
And it is midnight, and the themes of inclusion and exclusion are dawning.
22. A science of hyperbole could be called hyperbology, and the study would have no discipline like photography does.
The bigger picture comes afterwards, and when one applies it to another structure, then the construction cannot change.
And, where many things might have changed, the psychology behind it still cannot expose those higher needs to have a poem be highest.
These higher needs ride within it in the right way, and they limit our behavior to a small part of that harmony in a society which must be.
When we do not strive for the superb, then our intellectual needs have no chance of being thought of as bettered.
If my rights are given free rein, these higher needs are satisfied and are actualized.
But things are infinite, and our discussions make us feel so about an unconditional change.
If there is too little pressure or too much, we cannot escape.
The effect is to stay put and discover what the imagination must alleviate even by the lowest form of pressure.
For starters, the beginning will not be of a higher pressure until it begins to change, because without change, there's no pressure.
23. So time has ceased to move.
Pressure is increasing the more you invent the images.
Yes, maybe an imbalance is occurring because enough communication has been and so the images are presented just by you, and the pressure has ceased to exist to others.
And to begin, the solutions cannot be solved with the absence of the images, and probably without the aid of a logical space will the earth settle.
This is not an increasing pressure process, and the atoms do not understand the whole, and if the atoms would have increased, then the pressure might have been avoided, and all could have continued.
So, the avoidance of the order changes the order again, and it is all done by design, and all of it has started to end some pressure, which is just for me.
The collapse happened to create the pressure, and when things continued without changing, the beginning began, and this is parallel to the imbalance of the pressure which has begun, and with pressure comes change.
24. There's no evolution that can change the pressure of space.
And, I think about my body, and how it is a master over that pressure.
And without any energy, I have mastered its diminishment as my age changes and I become more inactive.
The change is how my age becomes imaginative, which I have discovered, but I cannot explain that process in any paper.
And the games are on the higher levels from where I drop.
The cut is into today, and the floor is alone a plane, and it graduates into one chop, but 144 chops happen over 128 feet.
This is no model of mine, and there is no base to which it joins, and the colors disappear when they blend into space.
And, when it is not awesome, the three are odd, and the sculpture is destroyed.
The wheels are not worked on, and a mirror is very far away.
And, when the images have no rhythms, then I will push out the strings which connect to every edge of their kind.
And this will be of a positive joinery, and yet the proportions will be odd to the number of shapeless lengths.
The projects themselves will be numberless, and the zigzags will have no directions, and my fingers will not be able to number every shapeless mass.
The blurry horizontals will be overestimated, and I will try not to compose more horizontals, because horizontals blur whenever I draw or sculpt some imitation.
25. The bloom will soon be
Alfred Lord Tennyson and Alice Walker and Andre Malraux and Andrew Marvell and Anthony Trollope and Arthur Miller and Ben Jonson and Bernard Malmood and Bigger Thompson and Brett Ashley and the Brontes and Caddy Thompson and Carson McMullers and Cervantes and Charles Baudelaire and Charles Dickens and Charlotte Bronte and Chris Marlowe and Clarissa Dalloway and D.H. Lawrence and contemporary poets and Daniel Defoe and Dante and Doris Lessing and E.M. Forster and Edith Wharton and Edmund Spenser and Edward Albee and Elizabeth Bishop and Elizabeth Bowen and Emily Bronte and Emily Dickinson and Ernest Hemingway and Eudora Welty and Eugene O'Neill and Ezra Pound and F. Scott Fitzgerald and Fanny Burney and Flannery O'Connor and Franz Kafka and Frederick Douglass and Fyodor Dostoevsky, are in the stereotomic bulk, and my nature too is to create some time.
What is subtracted from it cannot be described, but I can study my own time's final picture.
And as Raphael speeds infinitely fast, the dull colors are not rendered by any watercolors, and they relax a grid upon which the Brazos sits.
26. I blush and let myself be, and my hand erases the long captions.
And it was not a simulation, so I will not need any plaster of Paris to close myself up inside the plane within its own stereotomy.
And I lay down straight where many cubes are spread out, and at the top of the bed there are marks which confuse me.
And as I cannot have a way to construct without any materials, the chain reaction cannot happen with these bricks which are in one stack.
And when the ghost is a mess, I am as careless in the elegance as it is, and the time will not shift for me nor for it, and the one stack before us will grow.
There are many modules left behind, and they are colorfully marked.
Depths do not constitute any combinations, and I have my independence with the relationship of myself to this difficult and chaotic system.
I have neither yet set up a rhythm or any combinations of similar elements, as I only relate for now to some lines.
27. The shapes thin out, and at the end is the direction which I avoid.
The yellow is near the blue and the line has been topped.
There are many cubes right here, and the line cannot imply another line.
Many shapes are here, yet there has been no pressure at the end.
So life contracts itself not into a cycle, and I cannot perceive the infinite maturity of the cycle it should have been, for there are many little effects that affect me, and at the beginning begins my contraction that will lengthen itself without any pressure.
And I will be upset if I go out all of the way to distance myself from the door as all of this happens.
And, the perfection happens inwardly, which is different from being already in the infinite situation.
And no proof is set up, and I am free to let my feelings respond to what cannot merely be a ploy.
28. There will be no press release, and I will have to disassemble the file cabinet before reality becomes a puzzle.
And there will be no tautology, nor any paradox which can be avoided.
The material will not be connected to any notches, and on the stucco there will be many focal points.
And I will lose my sponsorship when I define the condition of my art project, and the grass will seem even more abstract than my negativity.
And the project will be kept away from the trees, and that will be one of many requirements.
There will be 4 lines more to indicate each of the quadruple notes.
Other factors will be undefined, and the facilities at the site will be for the art project.
And if there is support from my colleagues, or from an institution, or from a town body, then I will make available the materials.
Other sources of financial support will not ensure that the project will be successful until I realize that there is no place where I might begin the project, and that it should not be the sort where having any foundation applies.
And when I am shown that I cannot decide whether to perform or not, then the kind donations to build will circle into my hands, and I will not need any more to work on the previous design.
I will end and stay around to meditate, and still Blinkputs will not be constructed.
It cannot be copied by any corporations, and I will be going public with my list of the music I made, and I will test out the stucco before I sit back down.
29. I will send the letter back tomorrow to lose my one chance out of many that have built up.
And I will stop sending letters when nobody is convinced.
And when my weak opinions strengthen my need to win, then I will have more potential to think some growth will come afterwards.
And I will be less productive in my teachings, and the broken layers of my poem will not be much criticized, and the difference will be of a type that is general for my communication by it.
And so I will just teach, and I will stand out by making a scene to instruct in me, by the poem, how to contain a thickness that is only singly woven.
And on the walls will not be hung any sailboat pictures.
I will let them carry very little.
And you will arrive with your discs, pebbles and steel, and the organization will still not be arranged like I like.
To study just once the model is to take up what piece it has.
And so we study it, and by our studies we disappear.
30. There is no more foam to hot wire, and the clamps are off of the plates which were upon the styrofoam.
And it does not need to be on one side.
Finally, I will not be able to cut the styrofoam with a knife, but its flatness will appear in many colors.
The white and the blue shapes will become larger, and I will check over the zones that I am not certain I have duplicated.
The arrangements will not yet be tested in stucco, and this type of form in particular that I will compose will have no limits.
There will be 5 right here, and the lawnmower will be unnecessary.
Louis Kahn will not be here, and the details for the rooms will reflect 6, 7 or 8 facades.
And these ancient numbers over the glass exit will not be planned.
The glass itself will not be for any door.
And the exit through the architecture school will be in the front.
I will get in my poem more of a merry kind.
And the next 2 rooms will be masterful in architecture.
And the next 3 rooms will be of a merry kind.